All right. May peace and power elevation be to all you beautiful people out there. This your one and only girl, Tiffany L. French, coming through live in effect right here on the StreamYard. So if you on the YouTube channel, please go ahead and subscribe to that channel and go ahead and hit that notification bell when I'm on. If you are on Facebook, go ahead and share this video on Facebook, please do so. All right, so as you all know, I do daily Black history all day, every day. So I'm kind of starting late because I had things to take care of. You know, you gotta get your eyes checked, and every now and then, you know, by me wearing glasses, I want to be able to make sure I can still see. So, anyways, so let's get to it. So, I want to deal with the daily Black history. All right. So today we're gonna be dealing with Robert C. Maynard and also another brother by the name Hugh H Smythe. All right. Robert C. Maynard was an editor and owner of the Oakland Tribune newspaper. And also Hugh H Smythe was a diplomat, an author, and a scholar, and also a sociologist as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with Robert C. Maynard, and I'm going to post his picture up. So let's get into it. All right, this is Robert C. Maynard right here. Okay, this is him. So let's go into his biography of who he is and where he come from. All right. So here he is. Okay, Robert C. Maynard. Robert Clive Maynard, born on June 17, 1937, and died August 17, 1993, was an American journalist, newspaper publisher, and editor, former owner of the Oakland Tribune, and the co-founder of the Robert C. Maynard Institute for Journalism Education in Oakland, California. So here's biography. Early years, Maynard was one of 6 children to Samuel C. Maynard and Robertine Ursula Graves, both immigrants from Barbados. At 16 years of age, he dropped out of Brooklyn High School to pursue his passion for writing. Maynard became friends with influential New York writers James Baldwin and Langston Hughes, and later acknowledged Martin Luther King Jr. as his hero. So his parents are immigrants from Barbados, right? But he was born in New York City. Okay, and when he dropped out of school, he had a passion for writing. So that what made him want to get involved into journalism, because of his passion for writing. And let's continue on. All right. So Maynard's career in journalism began in 1961 at the York Gazette and Daily in York, Pennsylvania. In 1965, he received a Nieman Fellowship to Harvard University and joined the editorial staff of the Washington Post the following year. In 1979, Maynard took over as editor of the Oakland Tribune and became the first African American to own a major metropolitan newspaper after purchasing the paper 4 years later. He is widely recognized for turning around the then struggling newspaper and transforming it into a 1990 Pulitzer Prize winning journal. Okay, Maynard greatly valued community involvement. He taught at local high schools and frequently attended community forums. His positive, proactive outlook helped many in need, including children of cocaine addicted mothers and earthquake and firestorm victims. Maynard used the outreach of his newspaper to better the community by pushing for improved schools, trauma care centers, and economic development. All right. Then it goes on to say Robert C. Maynard Institution for Journalism Education. In 1977, Maynard co-founded the Institute for Journalism Education, a nonprofit organization dedicated to training journalists of color and providing accurate representation of minorities in the news media. For more than 30 years, the Institute have trained over 1,000 journalists and editors from multicultural backgrounds across the United States. All right, and the Institute he co-founded with his second wife, Nancy Hicks Maynard, was renamed in his honor after his death from prostate cancer in 1993. His daughter, Dory J. Maynard, later became president and CEO of the Robert C. Maynard Institute for Journalism Education. All right, and so here's more information about him. Right here. This comes from his website, which is called the Maynard Institute. Okay. And then it goes on further to say that he was a charismatic leader who changed the face of American journalism, built a 4-decade career on the cornerstones of editorial integrity, community involvement, improved education, and the importance of the family. All right. And then it goes down to say that in the 1980s, Maynard began a twice weekly syndicated newspaper column in which he transformed national and international issues into dinner table discussion of right and wrong. His views were widely broadcast through regular appearance on This Week with David Brinkley and the McNeil Lear report or McNeil Lear report. He was a broad member of the industry's most prestigious organization, including the Pulitzer Prize, the Associated Press, and the American Society of Newspaper Editors. It was his lobbying in the 1970s that nudged the ASNE to adopt the goal of diversifying America's newsroom by the year 2000. This country cannot be the country we want it to be if its story is told by only one group of citizens. Our goal is to give all Americans front door access to the truth, he said in May of 1993 during his last public address to college students at the Freedom Forum in Arlington, Virginia. Okay. So on his website, and that's him again right here. That's him right here as a young man, looking at the newspaper, or holding the newspaper rather. Okay, so and then it goes on to say his journalism career began in 1961 at a day newspaper in York, Pennsylvania. In 1965, he received a Nieman Fellowship to Harvard University. In 1992, his daughter, journalist Dory J. Maynard, became the first African-American woman to follow her father to Harvard as a Neon Scholar. At the Harvard, Bob Maynard covered civil rights and urban unrest as a national correspondent for the Washington Post. He later became the newspaper ombudsman and later still joined the staff on the of the editorial page. All right, so that's the information source about Robert C. Maynard. So as you can see, that he was one of the African Americans that really wanted to see his people get involved into journalism and do a lot of writing and editorial work and things like that. So which inspired him to start his own institution, right? Which is called the Institution for Journalism Education. Now, there are African Americans that's in this field, okay? But when you hear about the field of journalism, it's not on the level that he's dealing with, right? Well, not many is on the level of doing editorials, or most of the time you see them on television, having television programs, things of that nature, and most of them deal with pop culture. So it's not so much dealing with civil or anything that's dealing with politics or economics like that. Most of the time it's pop culture stuff. If you really see our people that's involved in journalism. And first I wanted to get in journalism because I used to love to write. I used to love to question things and things of those natures. But then I kind of just lost interest in it. So, and I've been on the writer block for a while. So, so I have really nothing much to really write about because I've been doing, a lot being on videos and doing my reading and things of that nature. But I find this very inspiring as an African American woman, to know that there is Black people that have got their hands into journalism, and not many are being recognized for it and being given a lot of credit for the work they have done thus so far. So, yes, if you want to check out more information, you can do so right here. That's his website. And then there's something I just want to show real fast. So there's a case study, right? It's called the Oakland Tribune under Robert C. Maynard and the Alameda newspaper group. So let's look right here. Oakland Tribune under Robert C. Maynard and the Alameda newspaper group, a case study. All right, so we're gonna just look at the introduction real quick. All right. As a table of content, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's the introduction. So the introduction is, this is a case study of the Oakland Tribune, a major metropolitan daily located in the East Bay stretch of the San Francisco Bay Area region. This objective of this study was to trace the history of the Oakland Tribune under the ownerships of Robert C. Maynard from 1983 through 1992, and the Alameda newspaper group from 1992 through 1994. And it goes on to say, on April 30 of 1983, after months of negotiation, Robert C. Maynard purchased the Oakland Tribune from media conglomerate, the Gannett Company. Maynard's purchase was significant on many levels. Industry-wise, Maynard's act reversed the prevailing U.S. trend towards chain ownership, and he became the first Black to own a major metropolitan daily. Locally, the East Bay communities now had a hometown owner. From a business standpoint, Maynard had purchased the Tribune for $22.5 million with almost no money of his own in a leveraged buyout. $17 million of $17 million of the $22.5 million came from Gannett. Again, so he didn't really have the $22.5 million, right? So, with that being said, $17 million of the $22.5 million came from Gannett. So that probably means that he paid around about 5 million for it. But that's interesting. But let's continue on. Maynard's reputation as a journalist, plus the many firsts achieved by becoming owner, added to the collective hopes of those in the community and the industry that he would succeed where previous owners had not. Significantly, people believed that the things that Maynard stood for and championed would be reflected in the staff and the pages of the Tribune. Maynard's accession to owner was thereof therefore a symbolically significant moment in newspaper history. Those who knew okay, those who those who knew him or knew of him had every reason to believe that as someone who came up from the editorial ranks, he will bring solid quality journalism to the pages of the Tribune. Those who knew him during his days as a teacher and a director of the Institute for the Journalism Education and the summer program for minorities journalists had every reason to believe that Maynard would work towards increasing diversity in the Tribune newsroom. The mere fact that Maynard had broken such immense new ground provided the impetus for this case study for the Tribune under him. Was Maynard's editorial vision for the Tribune? Was he able to realize that vision? What happened to the vision? What happened to that vision after ANG became the owner? Although the era under ANG flourished contemporary information on the Tribune today, the primary focus of this study was the Maynard era. Direct comparison could not adequately made because of the different time frames involved. Maynard era lasted 9 years. ANG had been in Oakland for a little more than 2.5 years. All right. So the value of examining the Oakland Tribune beyond the Maynard era rested in the fact that a comparative study allowed the differentiation of the factors that were common or specific to the Maynard and ANG Tribune. A comparison provided some clues about the larger variables that influence the editorial product beyond ownership. Lastly, it provided insight of a metropolitan daily in transition. All right, then it says over the near decade that Maynard was the owner of the Tribune, he drew both praise and criticism from his staff. He was nationally prominent and well regarded in journalism circle. His wife and partner, Nancy Hicks Maynard, was a former journalist with the New York Times, and she worked closely with her husband in lifelong endeavor to increase diversity in America's newsroom. Both worked to create programs geared towards increasing diversity in the newspaper industry before finally coming to Oakland, California to take on the uphill battle of owning, operating, and managing the Oakland Tribune. Now, it then goes on to say that was in 1983. Today, the Tribune is owned by Alameda Newspaper Group. ANG also owned 4 other daily newspapers in the East Bay: the Alameda Times-Star, the Hayward Daily Review, the Fairmont Argus, and the Tri-Valley Herald in Pleasanton. The acquisition of the Tribune in the late 1992 by ANG initially created quite an uproar among competing local newspaper Tribune readers and staffers. However, it had been predicted that if the Tribune were to go up for sale, ANG owner Dean Singleton would be the most logical buyer because ANG already had a foothold in the East Bay market with his 4 other dailies. Also, Dean Singleton had become legendary for buying operation that other large companies could not make work. All right, the question of ANG's commitments, preparedness, and fitness to take on a tough urban market like Oakland primates, the Tribune newspaper, and the pages of competing media. All right, so that information goes into how Robert C. Maynard took over the Oakland Tribune, and then the ownership was in the hands of another group that goes by the name of Alameda Newspaper Group. All right, so this was written in 1995. All right, okay, and it's under San Jose State University Scholar Works, a master thesis. It was written by Nancy Ann Fogg. See, so let me scroll all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so as you can see, that's the data report right here. Oh, the apex. All right, so then there's the references. All right. So here's the source of information right here, if you want to check it out for yourself. Okay. So, and you can follow this and additional work at scholarworks.sjsu.edu. Oops. Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and look on the website scholarworks.sjsu.edu/etd thesis. All right. So yeah, that's that information right there. Okay. So we're gonna go into another brother real fast, right? This brother was a diplomat, okay, and he was also a scholar and a sociologist and an author. His name was Hugh H Smythe. Hugh H Smythe. And we're going to go on this page, right? blackpast.org. So Hugh H Smythe. That's a picture of him and his wife, Mabel Murphy Smith. Okay. And they was in Syrian Arab Republic in 1965. That's him and his wife. All right, so let's look at his biography right here. So, diplomatic scholar and author Hugh H Smythe was born on August 19th of 1913 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His mother was a housemaid. His father, who died when Smith was 3 years old, was a mailman. One of 5 siblings. At age 6, Smith was forced to start work as a paperboy to help support his struggling family. In 1936, upon earning a degree in sociology from Virginia State College for Negroes, now Virginia State University, where he won varsity letters in basketball and track, Smith made his first unsuccessful attempt to be employed in the U.S. Department of State. Fortunately, his outstanding academic records allowed him to continue his studies and acquire a master's degree in sociology at Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta University. In 1939, Smith married Mabel Murphy, a student at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. He then served 2 years in the Army during World War II. In 1946, he completed his doctorate in cultural anthropology at Northwestern University with the dissertation titled Patterns of Kinship Structure in West Africa. All right, so this guy is interesting. He's right there up my alley. Right there up my alley. So he went to Virginia State University, right, and earned a degree in sociology. He got his master's degree at Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta, and he also studied cultural anthropology. And he wrote a dissertation about West Africa, which was called The Pattern of Kinship Structure in West Africa. And then it goes on to say, when he was initially unable to attain employment as a diplomat with the U.S. State Department in the late 1940s, Smith taught sociology at Tennessee A&I College, which is now Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. So he went on to taught sociology at another HBCU, which was Tennessee State University. Yeah, he taught sociology. Now, he earned his sociology degree at Virginia State. That's where he started at a HBCU. Then he went to another HBCU and earned his master's degree in sociology, which is at Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta. And he ended up going to Tennessee State University and earned his degree there. I mean, well, not earn his degree, but he was able to go and teach there at Tennessee State. And he was teaching sociology. All right. Then it says, and worked as a researcher for the NAACP. From 1951 until 1953, he was a visiting professor at Yamaguchi National University in Japan. In 1953, Smythe was hired as a sociologist professor at Brooklyn College in New York City, New York. Smythe and his wife assisted James H. Robinson in launching Operation Crossroads Africa in 1958, a forerunner of and inspiration for the U.S. Peace Corps. Okay. Still longing for a diplomatic assignment and encouraging by the more liberal presidency of John F. Kennedy, Smythe sought every opportunity to work abroad. He traveled with American delegation to international conferences, served on numerous committees, and was a consultant to various agencies affiliated with the United Nations. He also added to his resume lectures at the U.S. U.S. Foreign Service Institute in Washington, D.C., and a Fulbright teaching professorship at Chulalongkorn University in Thailand. Okay. Finally, on October the 28th, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson appointed Smythe the U.S. ambassador to Syria. He was only the 10th. He was only the 10th African American foreign ambassador and the first to be assigned to a nation in the Middle East, despite the rampant anti-American sentiment in the politically unstable, violence-stricken nation. During his 20 months as an ambassador, Smythe was able to demonstrate the friendly, conciliatory intentions of the United States. His good work ended abruptly when the Six-Day War began between Israel and its Arab neighbors. Smythe was immediately ordered by the Syrian government to close the U.S. embassy and leave the nation. He definitely sidestepped the demand of the political leaders in Damascus until an orderly departure of American embassy personnel could be arranged. All right. So he eventually got his opportunity to work as, or to be a U.S. diplomat, or the U.S. ambassador rather, under President Lyndon B. Johnson. And he was sent over to the country of Syria, which is in the Middle East. And then there was a war that was going on between Israel and the Arab countries, particularly Syria. And that's when he was forced to leave. Well, he was ordered to leave the country that he was in and close down the what does it say here? Yeah, he was forced to close down the U.S. embassy. So he always wanted the opportunity to become a diplomat and be able to travel. And he finally got the opportunity to do so. But let's continue on. Right. 6 months later, on December 29, 1967, President Johnson appointed Smythe U.S. ambassador to Matala. After 20 months in that assignment, he returned to the U.S. at the end of Johnson's presidency and began teaching at Brooklyn College. He also worked with the Ford Foundation, the Fields Strokes Foundation, the Fields Strokes Fund, the Congressional Black Caucus, and the State Department, which he continued to criticize for its failure to attract and hire more qualified excuse me, and hire more qualified African Americans. Among his many writings are the books An African Treasury, article essays, stories, and poems, right? Co-edited with Langston Hughes, and The New African Elite, co-authored with his wife Mabel. On June the 22nd, 1977, Hugh Smythe died at the age of 63 in Manhattan, New York. So let's look at some of the books that he wrote. Um, let's look up the books that he wrote. That An African Treasury. Okay. Let's look up The New African Elite. All right, so he wrote a book with Langston Hughes, right? It was called An African Treasury, article, essays, stories, and poems. If I can find it. All right, so here's what. All right, so here's the book that he written with Langston Hughes. Right, it's called African Treasury. All right, by Black Africans. And for all of you that say, oh, Black folks didn't use the term African back then, they didn't call themselves African or African American. Obviously, Langston Hughes did, and this was 1960. But they didn't call themselves African. We didn't use that term African American. There was no such thing as African American. That didn't come about to 1988 when Jesse Jackson came around. Well, look it up right here. It's called A Selection by Langston Hughes and African Treasury by Black Africans. By Black Africans. Isn't that interesting? And let's go on to find another book called The New African Elite. All right. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't find the book, the second book that he wrote. So, anyways, let's look at an article that he written. Okay, and this was from Atlanta University Center, Digital Commons at Robert W. Woodruff Library, Atlanta University Center. All right, and this was written in January 1937. Playing the Numbers, a study in social behavior by Hugh H Smythe. All right, at Atlanta University. This was 1937. All right, and then there's the website at the bottom which tells you that you can go on digitalcommons.auctr.edu dissertation. All right. So that was his dissertation. And it's called Playing the Numbers, a study in social behavior. A thesis is submitted to the faculty of Atlanta University in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the degree of Masters of Arts. So when he was at Atlanta University, he was going to get his degree for sociology. So anytime you get a master's degree or a PhD, you have to write a dissertation for that. So, and it says right here, Department of Sociology. Okay. Now, we gonna basically he's talking about gambling. So he dealing with the social behavior and the construct behind gambling and why it's such a factor. Obviously. So let's read the introduction real fast. Okay. So the introduction go like this. Anything so calculated in its scope that it reaches and affects in one way or another people in all classes of society is a phenomenon worthy of special emphasis. The number game is just such a phenomenon, the social aspect of which are so limitless and so far-reaching as to make it a social problem in itself. Okay, any mania so widespread as this, so inclusive of all types of humanity, young and old, rich and poor, white and black, naturally has behind it certain correlative factors contributing to its growth and development. Thus, this thesis approaches the subject from the angle of understanding some of the underlying factors, the document forces that are responsible for this widespread American game of chance. Summarily, a brief historical sketch, the social significance of the number game, the participants answering the question as to who plays, a treatment of the game's vernacular and the Negro press and the end part and the part it plays. It is handled in such a manner as designed to give torso but define definite information relative to the subject. All right, so it's an old paper. It's kind of hard to read the letters, so because the letters in fine print and it's very old, so it's kind of hard to read it pretty much. But it says this subject, to my knowledge, has never before been handled in such a manner as herein treated. Although it is apparently known to have sufficient social ramification as to make itself an objective in our social structure worthy of special treatment. All right, and it goes on to say, nothing in nature of a social study has previously been done, and interval articles have appeared in various periodicals attempting to expose the game as an evil in society or to show up the practices of the rackets. But none of these article publication has concerned itself with pointing out or revealing the problem that the number games have created in the American life. Now, I'm gonna start right there. Okay, now during his time in the 1930s, all right, the most popular illegal activity was gambling. All right, which was rolling dice, shooting craps, uh, doing numbers like lottery numbers, street lottery, all of that. That was like the most illegal activity to get involved to. Now it's not so illegal anymore because you still got people that shoot crabs, okay, and you got people that still do numbers. So those things are not a major issue. They're not a big problem anymore like it was in the 30s and the 40s and all the way on down to the 50s. They became a major problem. So in this case, he was tackling the issue about society and their problems on the number games, and how people were doing street lotteries and how people were shooting crabs or rolling dice and stuff like that. He was trying to understand, well, what is the problem behind it? Why is it so illegal? Why is it so illegal to roll dice? What is going on? And that's when he did his field research. All right. To earn his master, again, in order to earn a master's degree, you have to go out and do the field research, and you have to write a good dissertation. So he did his field research, right? Because his degree was sociology. So he had to focus on the topic about gambling and why gambling was so illegal and why was it looked as a bad thing, and how society felt about gambling at that time period and their attitude towards it. So let's go ahead and continue on. And it says, having entered the game when it was in its infancy and merely a fade, first as a participant and later as a worker, serving in the capacity at one time or another as a writer, runner, checker, and slip detector. The author feels inclined to believe that he is qualified to make some attempt at an original contribution to the number game as a subject that should merit special treatment from a sociological standpoint. All right. Uncharted field of social behavior must needs be approached through an explanatory study. The limits, devices, and intricacies of its functioning cannot be fully interpreted through a unilateral analysis. Hence, this study of the numbers game must serve as a pathfinder, indicating not only the trend of the grounds of development, but also the social process involved. Okay. And so we're going to look at chapter 1 real fast. This is his dissertation. This is a Huff Smith dissertation to earn his master in sociology. All right. So right here in chapter 1, he talk about on the nature and functioning of gambling. Gambling is an ancient practice. In the life of primitive man, gambling was a supreme importance. It was through the medium of chance that he communicated with the deities. The Hebrews resorted to chance and lottery as a means of distributing property. At a later date, lotteries were frequently used for distributing conquered or communal property and for the selection of wives. As to its practice in contemporary life, sufficient are its evidence to speak for itself as to its prevalency. Then he goes on to say, the spirit of gambling seems to be in all people. We may try to repress it. We may legislate against it, but in one way or another, the gambling spirit seems to spring up again on the race course, in the stock market, in the lotteries, or in card games, in the drawing room, in crap games, in the streets. Therefore, it seems impossible to say to people, you shall not gamble. Now, this is an interesting dissertation that he did. Because it does go back in the ancient time period. So let me talk real brief. Gambling is nothing more than mathematics. It's nothing more than mathematics because you're dealing with patterns. All right. You're dealing with how many times the number will reappear. So the common number when you shooting the dice, right? When you roll that dice, they looking for what? 711. 711. All right. You count, you looking at how many times that number is gonna show up. All right. So basically you dealing with patterns. It's just mathematics. So he has a point right here, and I really like how he touched on this. It's very interesting. Let's continue on real quick. And it says, if we ask ourselves what is really, if we ask ourselves what it really is that seems to be in all people, we find that it is essentially a strong force that seems to be bred into man, a force which we shall, a force, a force which we call hope, which pervades the human being, enables him to face an uncertain future. This hope has become a universal feeling and has gotten linked up with the desire to acquire property with the least expenditure of effort and energy. This greater force has assumed a dominating position among social urges, and from it there have developed other forces which by the very nature of their functioning are social forces. Pretty interesting. And it says man is motivated by social forces composed of desires, yearnings, and cravings. Only a little prompting by external influences easily sets in motion that powerful pictures forming contrivance of the brain and the imagination. Once the thought process are diverted from their usual channels of stability and given a tangent to pursue that leads to the land of luxury and riches through supposedly easily accumulated means, certainly generally stable motives and desire are aroused to greater activity. And then he goes on right here. It says one of the most prominent forces among these social forces that have aid in keeping people participating in the number game is habit. It is commonly known that habit releases the mind from the necessity of paying attention to details and as such diverts the reasoning powers. When this stage of development is reached, it can be said that the individual who has acquired the habit of playing the numbers is practically a slave of the game. Thus, through lack of reasoning, unconscious adaptation has made him another victim to add to growing list of those who participate. All right. So, it's very interesting that he writes this dissertation explaining why people gamble. So he basically saying that people gamble under the concept of hope, and also it's a habit. So people feel like, oh, if I hit this number right here, I will win it. And to this day, people are still operating under that hope when they playing lottery. So when you're playing lottery, you basically guessing the number. You're taking a guess at what the number is, and if you guess the number correct, then you'll win the Mega Million prize or the Powerball or whatever it is. You're gonna win that because you took a guess at the number. So even if you don't guess all the numbers correctly, if you guess at least two of them, you will get some sort of prize. So people are operating under the eternal hope of if they keep playing these numbers and keep playing the numbers over and over again, they're going to win. So many people don't agree with lottery. Some people look at it as a sin because you're playing on people's emotions, right? And it's like a drug habit. People become addicted to that, and they go broke about it because they're too busy trying to come up with a winning number. So a lot of religion is against lottery and gambling altogether because they know that the lifestyle that comes with it and people becoming addicted to it. But other than that, gambling is nothing more than just dealing with mathematics. Lottery is nothing more than mathematics. As a matter of fact, if you want to be technical, when you look at the stock market, right? The stock market, the Dow Jones, all of that, that's nothing more than gambling. It's like you're playing lottery, because guess what? You're betting on your stocks. You're betting if your stock is going to go up or is it going to go down. If your stocks go up, then you earn more profit, right? That's, I mean, as an investor. But if your stock going down, then you start to lose money as an investor. So all it is mathematics. And of course, you can incorporate economics in that too. But more so, mathematics is what you're dealing with. So, and then he goes on to say this real quick, and I'm about to get off. He says, the habits mean to have, the individual acquires it, and it acquires the individual. And unless a strong conscious effort is put forth, it will persist with a tendency to hold on until it has exalted the individual. Thus, we come to know how the game claims so many permanent members. This unconscious habituation of playing becomes so firmly embedded in the individual's mode of life that he unthinkingly responds when the correct stimulus is applied. And it says individuals play once, play again, spurred on by shop talk of luck and rumors of this and that. Big haul, constant, continue, regular playing builds up within the person a habit of playing the numbers. And although he has probably never hit it, he does not see that daily he is contributing and never receiving any return from his investment. So all it is, you're investing into something and you're hoping you're going to get something in return. So it becomes an addiction, because you're constantly going broke trying to win a mega prize or a Powerball, or trying to get some type of large lump sum of cash. So yeah, but anyways, that's all for Daily Black History. And if you want to check out this article, you can go ahead and look it up yourself. It's called Playing the Numbers, a Study in Social Behavior by Hugh H Smythe. He was doing this for his sociology. So yeah. All right then. So let's see. I just logged on and I will watch from the top afterwards. But my question is, what made you touch on this topic? Okay, so I deal with a topic about Black history, right? So I do a daily Black history topic every day. And so the topic that I was dealing with was a few individuals. One was named Robert C. What's his name? Oh my God, I forgot his name just that fast. Robert C. Maynard, and the other one was Hugh H Smythe. So what I was just reading, about Hugh H Smythe, right? And what he did as far as throughout his career, because he was a sociologist and he was an author and he was a diplomat. Okay. So what I was reading was his dissertation, and he was talking about playing numbers and gambling and whatnot. So as I was reading his dissertation, I was kind of just going back, going over what he was saying and kind of just summarizing it and pretty much giving my thoughts and my own interpretation of it, and how and where I stand on with this article that he was presenting at the time. So just basically giving an outline of history is what I'm doing. That's all I do. So I do this all the time. So that's just something. And I feel that it's necessary. And I feel that it's necessary for us to really know our history more in detail, especially by us being in the diaspora. We should know more about our people and what they have really done, because we only getting limited information, and there's tons and tons of information out there that we should know about. And what I like to do is I like to be able to research it And once I research it, I like to be able to share the information to people so people can look it up for themselves and see that, oh, this is what really happened. Okay, this is what really took place. This person did that. That person did this. So instead of just limiting your information, you want to be able to expand it. And that's the whole purpose. And that's why I'm doing it. So I hope that answered your question, Cecile. All right. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, may peace and power elevation be to all of you. Please be safe out there. And right. Yeah, that's all gambling is, Cecile. He put, okay, because I study gambling on the mathematical level, and I will rewatch it. Yeah, because that's all gambling is. It's just mathematics. But I will expound on that later. But that's all it is. Just like the stock market is mathematics. Lottery is mathematics. All of that is mathematics. Let's just be technical. But anyways, you guys take it easy on yourself. Thank you guys for watching. And I will talk to you guys later. I will build with you guys more. So please go ahead and share this video if you like it. And also, if you want to support what I'm doing and you like that what I'm sharing as far as the content is concerned and the information I'm putting out there, you can go ahead and support my Cash App if you want to. That's up to you. So my Cash App information is right there for you if you want to support. But also, yeah, make sure you check out my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. So whenever I come on, you can be able to tune in and watch and all of that good stuff. All right, then. Well, y'all take it easy, and we will reconnect next time. Until then, may peace and power elevation be to all of you. Thank you so much. Peace. All right.